In Alaska, State Senator Don Young, a Republican, apparently has won a narrow victory in yesterday's election for Alaska's only seat in the U.S. Congress.
In 1973, Republican Don Young ran for and won Alaska's only congressional seat in a special election. That same year, Mary Peltola, the Democrat who would one day replace him, she was born. She would also go on to win Alaska's lone House seat through a special election. Although this time around, the process was very different. It was a ranked choice election, meaning that voters get to rank their preferred candidates in order. If no candidate receives more than 50% of the first place votes, the race becomes an instant runoff in round two. The candidate with the fewest votes gets eliminated, and their votes go to the next choice. This keeps happening until two candidates are left, and then the candidate with the most votes wins. It sounds kind of confusing, but to win an election like this requires a sort of crossover appeal. And as it turns out, that is just what Mary Peltola has spent her career preparing for. She spent a decade serving in Alaska's State House, where she developed a reputation for being, well, nice, and for working across the aisle with folks you might not expect. The most surprising example of which is probably former Governor Sarah Palin. The two say they bonded as expectant mothers working in the state capitol at the same time. And although Palin admits that the two have very different viewpoints, she has said that Peltola is a beautiful soul who has a heart for Alaska. In any other state, this sort of friendship might seem surprising, but this is Alaska, and doing the unexpected has kind of become Peltola's thing. During her campaign, she vocally supported abortion rights. She also voiced support for universal background checks while campaigning in a pro-gun state. And in the end, it worked. Voters have elected her to finish the term of the late Congressman Don Young. She is now the first Native woman to represent Alaska in Congress. And joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman-elect Mary Peltola of Alaska. I know you're not tired of hearing the intro, Democratic Congresswoman-elect. Am I right?
Thank you so much, Alex. And no, it hasn't gotten old yet.
Good. First, congratulations. And second, let's talk about what went down. For people who aren't that familiar with the way ranked choice voting works, is it generally the case or usually the case that because of the system, you often end up with candidates who are less partisan and more palatable to both sides? Is that a fair assessment of how it all works in the end?
Well, we're still learning the process in Alaska as well. This was the very first election that has been conducted under the new ranked choice voting system. But I am very optimistic, and I think what it allows to happen is steering away from the closed primary process, which has really shown us that has created an environment where folks are trying to out-Democrat each other or out-Republican each other to the point that we wind up with very extreme candidates, sometimes fringe candidates who get elected and then are not able to negotiate well when it's time to solve our challenges, and they're not really able to compromise or build consensus. And I think that the beauty of ranked choice voting is it's going to attract more middle of the road candidates and allow more middle of the road candidates who are much more in line with the average voter, I think, in Alaska, as well as across the United States, who we do tend to be very middle of the road as an electorate.
I wonder, I mean, is that why Sarah Palin didn't win? And do you think she's learned that lesson? You, Nick Begich and Sarah Palin are still running for this seat, the permanent seat, come November. When she lost, she impugned the ranked choice voting system and said, though we're disappointed in this outcome, Alaskans know I'm the last one who will ever retreat. Instead, I'm going to reload. I mean, I understand Alaska's a pro-gun state, but Palin has a tendency to speak in these kind of extreme, Trumpy, MAGA-ish, semi-word salad epithets. And I wonder if you think that kind of extremism has a place in not just ranked choice voting, but in the Republican Party if they're going to do well in November. I mean, is that why she lost?
Well, I think this election, for this special election, just to fill out the remainder of Congressman Young's term, I think that it really showed us that there is an appetite for folks who are not consumed by partisanship, who really want to bring people together. You know, earlier in your program, you talked about some of the issues that we're facing as a nation. I think we've seen some of the foreign aggression come out of Russia and China, which is very concerning to me as an American. And it makes me realize that no other Americans are my enemies. It doesn't matter what party you're from. If you're an American, you are not my enemy. And I think that that kind of messaging appeals to people. There's an appetite for that. I think that we saw where that takes us on January 6th. And I just think that people are craving people who want to build coalitions and unite us as Americans rather than divide us.
Do you think that there are Republicans in the House that feel the same way?
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. And I'm very optimistic about both ranked choice voting, but where we're going as a country, I think that there is just such an appetite and such a demand for people who want to work together and want to cooperate with each other. We have very serious and pressing issues that are facing households across the nation. We've got skyrocketing inflation. We've got housing shortages. We all want jobs with livable wages. We all want good schools to send our children to. There are so many more things that unite us than divide us.
Democratic Congresswoman-elect, I'll say it again, Democratic Congresswoman-elect Mary Peltola of Alaska, the first Native person to represent the state. It's about damn time. Thank you for your time. Congratulations on your win.